Welcome to the Classy Career Girl podcast. I'm your host, Anna Runyon, founder and CEO of Classy Career Girl, one of Forbes' most influential career sites. This is a podcast for a community of women who want to turn their passions into work they love. You'll learn how to become happy, successful, and balanced with class, skill, and style. We believe that you can create your future. So stop delaying your great life. Go put yourself out there. You can have your great life and career right now. Hey there, it's Anna Runyon, and today we are talking about networking and how to make networking less scary and how to get over your networking barriers. So let's be clear, if you are listening to this podcast episode, something attracted you to this episode because of the title, probably that means you don't like to network. So you are in the right place. If networking is a little scary, if you don't know what to say when you are out networking, if you don't really know how to network, we're going to talk about all that today. But overall, the big picture is that networking is really, really important to reaching your career dreams and your career goals. Whether you are starting a business or whether you are job searching, networking is part of reaching your goals. And it's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to share my stories of my feeling very uncomfortable as well with networking. And I totally get it because networking was always the thing that held me back. And it still sometimes holds me back too, because I am an introvert. And so, it's hard to put myself out there. It's hard to think on the spot. It's hard to introduce myself to new people I've never met before. All these things. I love being a network. I love being an introvert. I've done some posts about how it's beneficial to be an introvert. That's a whole different podcast for another day. But when it comes to networking is often a little tougher for us. So networking is also where you can take your career dreams to the next level. It's like a jumping point for you if you can tackle your networking barriers that we're going to talk about today. So first today, we're going to go over some networking barriers. We're going to go over some excuses that may be holding you back from reaching your career goals. And then we're going to conquer those networking barriers so we can get you closer to your dream career. And networking is really a lot like exercise. We know it's good for us. You're probably listening to this because you know that networking is good for your career and you should do more of it. We know exercise is good for us as well, but there's so many excuses not to do it, right? Like, I don't want to go to the gym. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I just don't feel like it. I don't have time for the gym. Same with networking, right? Networking is key to reaching your career dreams and goals, but you have excuses. So what are those excuses? First, we got to get totally clear on what are those excuses that are holding you back from networking. Maybe it's I'm not good at it, or I'm not motivated, or it's intimidating, or I don't have time, or if you're listening to this during quarantine of COVID-19, it's I can't even go to a physical networking event. Well, there's a lot of Zoom networking and one-on-one individual virtual networking that you can do through social media. So that's not a good excuse for me either. And we're going to talk about that today. So like exercise, networking can reap significant benefits, even if we can't go to a networking event, even if we have to do online networking or virtual networking, it can be so beneficial to you. In fact, experts estimate that more than 80% of job seekers find a new position through networking. So if you're job searching online, applying to a bunch of jobs, but you're not spending 80% of your time networking, you're probably missing out on job opportunities. And most hiring managers fill open posts at their organizations the same way, through referrals, through networking, from knowing people. So as well as if you're starting a business, most of your customers and your clients are going to be found through networking, through social media, through these types of networking that we're going to talk about today. So I'm all about not living a life with any excuses. I want you to get rid of those excuses today that are holding you back from your dreams. And I don't want you to live with any regrets. So we're going to keep moving forward here. So today it's going to be a little bit of some assessment of yourself. We're going to think through what has held you back from networking in the past. I want you to think about that. Think of those times where maybe you've seen a networking event, but you didn't go. Why did you not go? Get really clear of what are those things, those barriers, those excuses that are holding you back, because that's the first thing that you want to do is to get clear on what's holding you back, because you can't move forward if you don't know what is holding you back. So this was something that was holding me back way back. Let's rewind way back in 2011. I had a full-time day job and I was going to business school in the evenings. So that means I would leave my house at like 7 a.m. and I would get home at like 10 p.m. And I also was blogging on the side at classycareergirl.com. I did a weekly blog post. And at that time in 2011, the year 2011 was just about to start, and I was graduating from business school in 3 months. But it took two and a half years to get that degree in the evenings. But I was so busy working and studying, and that's it. Like, I didn't have time to network because that's all I had time for. I rarely even saw my husband. This was before kids. All I did was I worked and I studied and I worked and I studied. And so I was so busy, I had no time to meet other people. So time was my issue. So back in 2011, I knew, just like you guys know, you're listening to this right now, networking is that barrier that's keeping you from your dream career, your dream goal. Like, someone has a job for you. Someone wants to be your customer. You just have to find them, and you have to get out of your comfort zone and do this networking to find those people. That's how I felt in January of 2011. I knew I was so close to a new opportunity, to a new role, to something different, because that's why I went to business school, because I wanted something different. I wanted a different career, but I was still in the same career. So the MBA program that I was in didn't do what I thought it was going to do. I had to take matters into my own self, right? Like, I had to be the one to put myself out there to start networking. Just getting the magical MBA on my resume wasn't going to open up my dream career for me. So I gave myself a networking challenge back in 2011. This is when I was blogging every week. If you were reading Classy Career Girl way back then you get like triple stars, gold stars, because that was a long time ago. But I know some of you guys have been long-term readers. So thank you for your support if you've been reading since then. But I blogged about it. So every month I blogged about my networking challenge. And so it was called a 4x4 networking challenge. And so that meant that every month I would meet with 4 people I did know and 4 people I did not know. And I did a lot of informational interviews. I met a lot of new people, but then I also connected with 4 people that I already knew. Like, it could be my coworkers, or it could be my classmates, or it could even be my family members that I was busy, so I didn't call often. So it really forced me to meet new people, but then also just to stay in contact with the people I hadn't connected with in a while. So that was my 4x4 networking challenge. I did it all the way throughout 2011. I blogged about it, which was really helpful, because then I knew my readers were going to want to see how it was going. And I had a lot of readers who were also following me and doing it themselves, maybe just starting with a 1x1 every month, because it was tough that year to do all this networking, especially for an introvert who didn't have a lot of time and who was scared to put herself out there and had no idea what career she should do. And it was really tough, but I gained a ton of confidence and a ton of clarity on my career direction. So I gained confidence because I was doing 4 informational interviews per month, 1 per week. And so that gave me confidence because I was practicing my interview skills. I was practicing, asking questions, interviewing. I was practicing giving my elevator pitch. So I gained a ton of confidence. And then also I got a lot of clarity because talking to all these people really opened up a lot of knowledge and information that I was able to ask these people who had careers that I potentially wanted to have. I'll never forget the first one I did. The person referred me for a job like right away because she was so impressed I was doing these interviews. So if you don't know what you want to be or what career is right for you, networking and talking to people will open doors and help you understand what type of career is right for you. This is one of the things I highly recommend because I know it can get very overwhelming. I was talking to one of our class members just yesterday in our coaching call, and she was getting very overwhelmed trying to figure out what type of career she should do and narrowing down her options and just getting really overwhelmed and frustrated. And she's at the step now where she's done a lot of the self-assessment that I teach and a lot of the stuff about figuring out what your calling is and what your passion is. And she's going through the steps I teach in my Love Your Career formula. And now she's at the point where she has to start putting herself out there and talking to people. And when she's going to do that, she's going to have so much more clarity and she's going to get over that stuck point that she's at. I know for me, a long time ago, I had a dream of becoming a lawyer. Lawyer Anna, can you imagine it? And I did an informational interview with a lawyer as part of this networking challenge and quickly realized that being a lawyer is not for me. Like, I did not want to be a lawyer. And so I saved so much time and money by doing an informational interview and got so clear that I could, set the LSAT aside and not worry about that career for me. It just wasn't right because I learned through that informational interview that that wasn't the right career for you. So that's the clarity that's going to come when you do these interviews with people and you start networking and talking to other people. So let's move on to the 6 most common networking barriers. I want to know if any of these sound familiar to you. I would love to have a conversation about these as well. So if you're going through these and you're finding that you have some of these networking barriers or you want to continue this conversation, please post in the Classy Career Girl Network Facebook group because I think this would be a really good discussion topic. So let's dive into the 6 most common networking barriers. And please note that I have had every single one of these networking barriers. That's why I can talk to you about them because I know them all very well. So the first barrier is you don't have enough time to network. This was my barrier, remember, because I was working full time, going to school in the evenings, and running this side hustle blog on the side. And this really was my biggest pitfall when I was career searching because I wanted a new job, but I didn't have time to job search or network. And so I was often too busy with work and school to reach out and connect with someone. So if this is your case, my recommendation for you is to schedule some time in your calendar, like right now on a weekly basis, and make it a priority, because that's really what this podcast episode is about, is making networking a priority. Because if we don't make our goals and our priorities and our networking a priority, then it's going to get pushed to the back burner and all these other things are going to come up. And so, like I said, 80% of your job opportunities are found through networking. So we need to make this a priority in your schedule if changing your career is a priority for you, which it should be because you're listening to this podcast. You want something different. You are important. Your goals are important. So let's make it a priority. So go into your calendar, block off, I always say you just need 15 minutes a week. Like, if 15 minutes a week is all you got, I'm sure we can find that in your calendar. Ideally, it's an hour a week of networking at least, if not more. But if you only have 15 minutes, I guarantee you can find 15 minutes in your week to do some networking. So I always recommend, planning networking events and coffee meetings before the next month starts. So if you're listening to this, at the end of, August, then you're planning out September, right? Or if you're listening to this in September, you're planning out your networking events for the next month. And so that way on the first of the month, you already know who you will be networking with that month and you aren't having to do things last minute. And so this is a really good way to bust the networking barrier. You're looking out in advance and you're planning out your calendar. You're putting those networking events into your calendar. If you have to do virtual networking, you can always do virtual coffee dates. Like, you can reach out to people and ask them for an informational interview over coffee virtually on Zoom, right? 15 minutes. That's all I recommend you ask. Like, if there's someone who has a career that you want and you ask them for informational interview, I always just recommend asking and telling them it's only going to be 15 minutes. So that's why I said you only need 15 minutes a week. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. Okay, and it also could be doing online networking. Like you can find 15 minutes to do some online networking through a Facebook group, for example, and to connect with other people on Facebook. Okay, so networking barrier number 2 is you are an introvert. So if you are an introvert like me, it is sometimes hard to be open and let strangers into your life, right? But to network, you have to be open and curious. And you also must show up and be present in all conversations. And really, sometimes the hardest part is actually getting to the event or making that informational interview. But you will be so glad you did once you get there. So, usually at a networking event, so if you're going to a physical event, I always just focus on meeting just one person. Start speaking with them and asking them questions and focus on learning more about them. So this is what always took the pressure off of me when I was at networking events is when I stopped putting so much focus on what I was going to say and what my elevator pitch was going to be. And instead, I just focused on getting to know the other person and asking them questions. So instead of focusing on yourself, just try to be curious and to learn about other people because then it's going to be easier to meet others, especially since you know one person well. So if you just focus on learning more about one person, then you know someone there, right? You connected with just one person. I always say just focus on finding one person or helping one person, and then you'll gain your confidence. And also, don't be afraid to speak up if you have something to say and have a question ready to ask, such as how did you get started in your career? Or what are you passionate about in the work you do? And so I always, every time I go to a networking event, I have questions ready to go in my head. I have them listed out on a piece of paper. I review them before I go to a networking event. So I'm ready. I'm prepared. I have some questions already in my head. Now, if you're doing an informational interview, maybe you're doing it virtually, then as an introvert, it's even easier because you can literally have those questions in front of you and ask them during the virtual informational interview, whether it's a phone call or if it's on Zoom. So you should not be worried. You should definitely not be worried if you're an introvert and you're doing networking virtually because you can have your questions there. Okay, so networking barrier number 3 is you are not sure who to connect with. Okay, so first, let's talk about your dreams and your goals. So when it comes to figuring out what your dreams and goals are, sometimes it's kind of scary to tell your friends and your family members what your dreams and goals are, right? And so we have to broaden our network and we have to get new connections because sometimes our current friends and family might not see us who we dream of becoming someday, right? Like we're on this journey, we're on a personal development journey. If you're listening to this, you want to learn, you want to grow, you have goals, you have a vision of where you want to take your career and your life. And sometimes our close family and friends don't see where we're going. Example, my dad, who when I wanted to quit my job and start my business online, an online business, he told me that the internet was going to break. Don't do it. Don't leave your day job because the internet's going to break. Great example of me having these dreams and goals, but my family not really exactly understanding. So that's why it was important for me to have a group of entrepreneurs that I could connect with, that I could ask questions, that would support me, that knew my vision and my goals and could offer me support and advice. So first, it is good to start with your current network, so everyone you currently know, and ask them if they have any connections that they could introduce you to. Referrals are amazing to start with because when someone refers you, they're basically recommending you. So it's really good to start with that. That's where I always recommend starting. So, you can go to your family, your friends, your social media connections, your LinkedIn connections, like anyone and everyone you know. Pull out that Christmas card list, right? And tell them what you're doing. Tell them what you're looking to do. You're looking to learn more about a certain career field. You're looking to change careers. You're looking to learn more about a certain industry or a certain job position. Do they know anyone in that field or anyone who works at that company that they could introduce you to? And so you might be surprised just as far as the connections you get when you just put that out there, or you put a social media post out there and you just open up the possibilities for other people to refer you and introduce you to other people. Okay, so we are busting networking barriers. Let's move on to the fourth networking barrier is that you are not clear about what you want. So a recent study showed that only 5% of Americans have goals written down. So being clear about what you want and writing your desires down is the only way that you will be able to find out who you need to talk to in order to learn the information you need to reach your goals. So I once had a woman conduct an informational interview with me many years ago, and she was speaking to me. When she was speaking to me through this informational interview, she had no idea what she wanted to do for work. And it was very clear that she had no idea what her goal even was. And so then when she asked me to recommend her, I was very hesitant to recommend her for a job or to anyone else, to talk to at my company. And this was before Classy Career Girl. This is when I worked at a consulting company, and she wanted me to introduce her to other people. She wanted a job at that company, but I was hesitant. Like she wasn't clear about what she wanted, so I didn't feel comfortable recommending her. So this is just something to be aware of, because you want to make sure you have a direction when you are networking. If you're a little unsure, that's totally fine. But when you're doing this networking, you want to make sure that they know that you are interested in one career field. So for example, at that time, I was doing consulting for the military, financial consulting for the military. And she knew that. She knew my job title. So when she was speaking to me, she should have been very clear that she wanted to learn more about consulting, financial consulting, about my job. She wanted to learn more. She was interested in the company that I worked for. She wanted to learn about that company. But instead, she was telling me all these other things she was interested in too. So whoever you're talking to, let's focus. Let's focus on what that person does. Even if you're interviewing a ton of different people to see what career you should take, let's focus while you're talking to the one person on learning as much as you can about their career field. And don't tell them all the options that you're currently exploring too, okay? Okay, so networking barrier number 5 is that you're afraid to ask others for help. So I remember when I was back in my corporate consulting job, I had heard a man at my company saying that women often approached him saying, "I know you're busy, but can you help me with something?" But when men approached him, they said, "I need your help." And what a difference that made, he said, in how he responded with his help to them. So it's important that we ask for help. We ask, even if you want a raise, you ask for more, right? We're going to drill that into your head in a future podcast. But when it comes to needing help when you're networking, it's okay to ask for help. Like, people want to help you. And so we have to be assertive, and we can't be afraid to ask others for help. This is if you're job searching, this is if you're starting a business. We can say, "I need your help." Because people can't read your mind. So let them know why you are reaching out to them and how they can help you get to the next level in your career. There's so many people out there right now that can help you. Like, if you are in our Classy Career Girl Network Facebook group, there's so many people in that Facebook group that can help you. If you reach out to people you already know in your network and say, "I need your help," what is the worst that can happen if you ask for help? They don't respond? That's not that big of a deal, right? Those aren't the people you want in your network anyways, those people that don't respond. So be assertive. Don't be afraid to ask others for help. Like, give yourself a goal every week in those 15 minutes that you have. Just ask other people for help. Ask them a direction that you should go in. Ask them a book that you should read. If you're doing informational interviews, That's what an informational interview is you're asking a ton of questions to them to really understand what they do in their career and how you could be preparing yourself for that career field. Every time I did an informational interview, I remember doing them with career coaches. This was before I was a career coach. I was doing informational interviews with career coaches, and I was asking them, what books should I read? Like, I want to be a career coach someday. What books should I read? And how do I become a career coach? Like, what do I do? And sometimes we get so overwhelmed with the how because we don't know how to be a career coach. Like, I didn't know how to be a career coach, but when I did this networking, they told me. Like, I just followed their steps. They told me what to do. They told me what steps I needed to take, and then I did them. So that's the benefit of networking. So the last barrier number 6, is that you are scared. And the best way to get over your fear is to just do it. Often the anticipation of making that first contact is far worse than the actual conversation. And you will also gain so much skill and confidence and clarity the more you practice. So if you start flexing those networking muscles, it won't be long before you see big results, before you see new job opportunities, before you see referrals to someone who works at your dream company, before you see new customers and new clients and new people that can help you in your business if you want to start a business. So you might be scared. It's totally normal to be scared. Every step of your journey launching your dream career business is going to be scary. There's always going to be some fear. There's always going to be something uncomfortable, but we just have to move forward. And sometimes when we just send that email asking for help and send that email asking for a 15-minute coffee date with someone, you are like, there's going to be so many barriers busted, and you're going to have so many things open up to you because you're going to learn more about yourself and about where you want to go in the future. So you guys are now on your way to knocking down your networking barriers. A big congrats to all of you guys. So your action today, I want you to recognize your current barriers to networking. I want you to write them down. After you listen to the podcast, write down those excuses that might be holding you back from reaching your career goals, and then write down how you're going to get over your networking barriers, and that's going to help you reach your career goals. So I know you have goals, so let's just become more aware of what's holding us back, what our networking barriers are, what our networking excuses are. Write those down, and then write how you're going to get over those. And I tried to give you lots of examples here today of ways that you can get over those networking barriers. So I'd love to hear what you thought of the podcast today. You can post in the Classy Career Girl Network Facebook group, or you can share on Instagram stories. If you're listening to this, I would love to see. Please share it on your Instagram stories. Tag me at Classy Career Girl. I'll reshare it, give you a shout out. I would love to see that you're listening to this as well. And if you have not left a review of the Classy Career Girl podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to the podcast, I would greatly appreciate it, because that allows us to help more women find this podcast. And it's full of so much great information, and people need it now, right? There's so many people that need help with their career and their job search or their business right now, and I'd love to help them. So if you leave us a rating, that just helps us find and help more women. So thanks for listening today. I really appreciate you guys listening and sharing on your social media and sharing your reviews too. So we'll see you next time. Hey there, it's Anna Runyon, and I would like to invite you to my upcoming free masterclass called How to Plan, Design, and Launch Your Dream Career or Business Without Wasting Time or Money. I'm going to go over 3 simple strategies to go from feeling stuck at work to waking up excited every single Monday. So you can save your seat at www.classycareergirl.com/masterclass.